Hey everyone, I'm really excited for this week's podcast, and what it actually is it's a throwback from a time I interviewed a really good friend, Mr. Joe Puck. Shout out to you, my man. Why I wanted to share this with you all is because he is an absolute stud. He not only helped me break into medical device sales, and he was with me the day I got the call with Medtronic, but also from there, we've just created a great relationship. He was able to actually go from an associate to a full line rep role in under a year, and then now works with Intuitive. And I wanted to share that with you because, again, I know many of our listeners are people that are associate reps or they're in their first year, and then many of them want to work at a large medical device company such as Intuitive or Medtronic, where he was at previously. So I feel like this podcast could be extremely helpful. So let's get into it.
Welcome back to First Year In. I am your host, Jacob McLaughlin, and today we have a special guest joining us. It will be a lot of fun because you guys won't just have to listen to me. You will get to hear someone else who has had a lot of success inside the industry, and it's really a full circle moment for us because when I first started first year or new to medical device sales, he was one of the first guests on our podcast, and now to come back with First Year In and be able to hear his experience, it's going to be a lot of fun. So today we welcome Joe Puck to the podcast, who Joe worked for Medtronic, was able to go from an associate sales rep to a full line rep in 9 months, and has been a full line rep in medical device sales for around 5 years now, and has had success, has been able to work for some of the largest medical device companies currently at Intuitive, which if you haven't heard of them, look them up. And we are excited to welcome Joe to the show. So Joe, welcome.
Thank you. I'm back with the content king. Love what you're doing. It's been fun to follow your success too, man. So excited to be here.
Yeah, man. So excited to have you. And like you said, it's been fun, this little journey that we're on, just to be rocking and rolling, being able to stay up with you as you continue to crush it when you were at Medtronic, and to now living in a little warmer area where it's not so much snow. But yeah, just give a real quick background of who you are to the guest.
Yeah, man. So you kind of highlighted a little bit of it, but I was one of those guys. I think I highlighted this in the first podcast we did, but you would ask me what I wanted to be when I grew up. When I was 16, 17 years old, I would have told you I want to be a med device sales rep. Why that was a couple of reasons. Personally, like my life been affected like through sports injuries. I've had a couple knee surgeries, couple shoulder surgeries. So uncles were doctors, grandpas were doctors, so kind of surrounded by it. And then had mentors throughout high school that were actually in the industry as well. So it was kind of one of those things, like I was surrounded by it, but then the more I heard about it, the more I got excited about it. And was fortunate enough to get a associate sales rep position at Medtronic, and very, very grateful for that experience. Very grateful for those guys that took a chance on me when I was 23 and didn't know a thing, and still don't know much, but know more than I did then. And from there, really I can kind of get into my experiences and learnings and different things, but was able to get promoted and take on my own territory in about 9 months, and worked that role for 4.5 years or just 4 years. And then now been at Intuitive about 9 months. So, it's fun to look back at the journey and who you were and who you're becoming, and just all the habits and different people and mentors that come across through your life. And, you and I have said it. I think I said this on the other podcast. I'm just a broken record, but success leaves clues. And what I share today, honestly, is just like accumulation of what I've learned from different mentors and some of my own failures and different things like that. So excited to share, and hopefully somebody out there takes one thing. That's all I'm looking for.
Dude, I know they're going to get a lot of value, but I am smiling so big because really that's all I wanted to hit on today was success leave clues. Like, I've used that ever since you've said that on our first podcast, and it's such a good point. But like you said, it's been fun because you're only 28, just like myself, we're only 28 years old, and to be climbing this corporate ladder, corporate journey, doing the world of medical device sales and having success at pretty young ages, it's been fun. And the reason I just wanted to highlight that is because we have a lot of young listeners. And what I want to encourage you all is anything's possible. If you work hard, if you surround yourself with the right people. Ever since I met Joe, we've been on calls. We would go, I remember driving, I'd be going out to New Mexico on calls for business, and he would be out there, and we would just be touching base, seeing how each other are doing every so often. And then also the cool thing is Joe was one of the first guys who talked to me when I wanted to break into medical device sales. And then we got to work out together when I actually got the call from Medtronic that I got hired. And so
that's right. Good memory.
Yeah, to see this full circle go on. But the reason I'm just telling you this to everyone is I want you guys to pay attention. I want you to really take notes, because Joe is someone who is young, who's been in the industry. He has over 5 years experience, which again, you'll talk to a lot of people. There's some people who are 30, 35 who don't even have that much. So he's, even at a young age, had a lot of success. And just so you know, we've always talked about this. Every single time you'll hear, hey, you need to have about 2 years experience before you can go from associate sales rep to full line rep, right? And Joe's somebody who didn't believe that and just made a path happen. And again, the opportunity came and presented itself, but he was ready for it. And so before we go into that, I just always want to tell you guys, I say this on the other podcast all the time, eagles don't fly with pigeons. The reason I'm just saying that is this podcast is not to be like everybody else. This podcast isn't to be like every other medical device sales rep. I just don't believe in that, because again, if you're just here to make $120,000 work minimally and just kind of get by, that's great. Nothing wrong with that. I hope you're the absolute best. That's not what this is. That's not who we are. And it's just not in our blood. We're here to go attack in. So you're going to hear somebody who went from an associate to a full-on rep in 9 months. If you are listening, which a lot of our listeners are associate sales reps wanting to make that next jump, I would encourage you to take notes. And then also reps that maybe have been in for 1, 2, 3 years, but maybe you're only making 120, 140, 150K, but you want to jump up. You want to actually go into the next and raise your territory. That's what this is for as well, because we've both done it. And so I just wanted to talk on that. But Joe, can you kind of tell us about, 9 months, it's a pretty short time, but what did you do that you felt, well, first off, let's go. What did you learn in those first 9 months? What was it like being an associate? So everybody who's an associate right now can understand they're not alone with drinking from the fire hose and all that good stuff. But then also on the second hand of that is, what do you feel like you did to get yourself set up to be able to take that promotion when it presented itself?
Man, I'm ready to run through a wall. Eagles don't fly with pigeons. I don't know if I fit that category, but I love it. But yeah, back to the question. I'd say the approach that I kind of took into account for associate role when I was in it is that, obviously the end user, the surgeons, supply chain materials are the customer. But I kind of took an approach where the sales team and the sales reps that I was supporting were my customer too. And what I mean by that is you have to build their trust. That without that, they're not going to give you ownership or responsibility on things. And then you're not going to be able to develop and grow. Yep. You have to constantly communicate with them, follow up. Understand where their needs are. Is there something that I can take off your plate? So if you have that mindset of like, yes, again, surgeon's my customer, but also these sales reps that I'm working under, working alongside, they're my customer too. So I'm going to reach out to them the same way I would a customer. Be proactive. Understand like, hey, Aaron's got a big case over at 2 different sites. How can I help him cover? How can I help also, find different opportunities? So I'd say that mindset shift and approach to it is number one, because like I said, once you build trust with your sales team, they're going to drop projects. They're going to drop different opportunities to hand off to you. And then you have ownership of. And then one, you're going to get developed because you're going to get the reps that you need in order to take on that next level of taking on your own territory. 2, you're going to make it your own. You're going to be able to speak to that when an opportunity does come up and say, hey, I was able to, convert so-and-so, or I was able to, save X amount for the hospital, and that ended up getting implementation for X product. Yep. All the different language that you can throw around, but without trust from your sales reps that you're working with, then you really can't do your job. and then you're just the reactive guy or girl that's running around trays, running around product, doing the administrative work that nobody wants to do. And I mean, I'd be remiss if I didn't say it's like nobody wants to do that stuff, right? You want to be, if you shouldn't be in the job if you don't want to be in the field, in the ORs, making impact with the customers.
Yep.
So I'd say like from a approach standpoint, that's something that really like helped me, because in turn you're like building your own team, because who's the hiring manager going to go to first when an opportunity does come up?
Yep.
They're going to go to the reps. Hey, what do you think of Joe? Hey, what do you think of Jacob? They're are going to be the ones to vouch for you. And if there's hesitations, well, that kind of throws you already in that pile that, hey, he just needs more time.
Yep.
So I'd say that's something for me that really stuck out. And then I'd say that combined with there's like a transition period. Like when you first start, you're overflowing with information, drinking from a fire hose. It was a lot. I'm sure for a lot of us, it's the first time you're in an OR, you're standing in the back corner. The number one rule in your head is like, I'm just not going to break sterile. That's all I'm thinking about. Like, I don't even know what's going on clinically. But over time you get more comfortable. Another kind of side note with this is when you're starting out, go join your top reps. Like the easiest way to get ahead is like find somebody that's crushing quota, find somebody that's had consistent success over a number of years. What do they do differently? How do they approach the customer? How do they interact in the OR? How do they manage their day-to-day? How do they manage their accounts? Where do they find opportunity, and ultimately how do they close opportunity? What's their process? Different things like that. I think that helped me out early on. I was fortunate enough to be on a team with some really high performers, and then you make it your own. Like you don't mimic what these guys do. You take bits and pieces and make it your own, and you got to practice. Like I can't remember how many times like I'm in the car just like practicing my talk track, because when you get in front of a surgeon and you stutter and you look like you're still in high school, well, then you're probably not going to get a good chance at moving the process along, or even open a door and building a relationship with them. So I know I'm kind of rambling here and stumbling on
these are great.
Yeah, I'd say so. When you have that type of mentorship and you take those bits and pieces, well, then you're starting to get more comfortable and get as many reps as you can, get in as many cases as you can, have as many scrub sync conversations as you can. It's like anything else in life. The more you do it, the more you get comfortable, the more you build confidence, and naturally it's just the better you're going to be at it.
Yep.
So, that's like the number one piece of advice I have. And then as you get more comfortable and as you get more ownership of different opportunities, or you get accounts assigned to you, maybe they're like smaller rural accounts that like, hey, I don't want to go here, I'm the rep. Hey, I don't really want to go to this account much more. Go take it, see what you can do with it.
Yep.
That's something that I had experience with too. But then your mindset shifts from reactive to proactive, which it should from the start. But as you get more and more comfortable, more confident, like, okay, I need to go cover this case for Jacob. And while I'm there, I'm going to, look at the board. I'm going to check the shelves. I'm going to, peek around. I'm going to, make 3 to 5 new contacts. And then from there, that's like when you really turn it on the next level. One of my previous managers told me like one of the easiest ways to get promoted is already do the next level job. Yep. So, I mean, that's something that's always stuck with me in terms of, okay, I'm already doing this. Like, now let's give me the ownership, pay me for it, and I'm ready. It's a plug and play. So I said a lot there. I guess, is there anything that I can clear up? Anything not make sense?
No, I got to just say we could stop the podcast right there and call it good right there. You went into so much detail for everyone who's listening. For the fact of, you guys, I hope you heard what Joe said. There's a couple things I have to touch on. Is number one, doing the job to get the job. We say this all the time to our people who don't have a sales experience wanting to break into medical device sales. They're always going to have an objection. If you guys are in med device sales, you already know every surgeon. They literally can want your stuff, but they're going to have an objection. You need to be able to handle those objections, and you need to be able to already be doing the job. So, for example, this is what this whole podcast is about: is if you're an associate sales rep, how do you learn what to be a great full line sales rep so you can go get that promotion like Joe did in 9 months, right? And then if you're a full line rep, how do you go before you're thinking manager or sales trainer or any of that? First off, you just have to go perform. How do you go hit quota? How do you go learn that? And so I think that's the big thing is, number one, what you heard Joe say at the very end right there is, can you do the job and not get paid for it and be successful, and then go get paid for it once you can show that, because you'll go into it. This is what everybody talks about is they're like, oh, I'm not going to work that hard because they don't pay me enough. And let me tell you, that's why nobody makes more than 80K. That's why you don't make over 120K, because you think you're too good to do it, compared to every single person I know that's crushing it in this industry. Just needed the opportunity, just wanted the chance. That's number one. Number two, I hope you guys heard about like the mentorship, that going and finding somebody. I say this all the time, and we talk about in our program all this time is, all I do is save you guys time and money. That's all we do. Now on this podcast, it's all free, and that's why we're just giving you, but we've done it. We've lived it. I say this all the time. It's why I go get mentors that are millionaires. You know what I've never been? A millionaire. You know who can tell me how to be a millionaire? A millionaire. You know what I mean? It's like, it sounds so simple, but this is where people are so cheap, and it's the next mindset, right? Because we talk about this. There's a level from 50 to 100K, from 100 to 150K, 150K to 250, 250 to $500,000, $500,000 to $1 million, million, 10 million, whatever it is. There's always those next steps and barriers you have to break. But what so many people do is they're like, I don't want to pay the money, or in this case, the time to go learn from somebody. Instead of, they don't understand that they can just fast track their life by doing that if they just get a mentor. And that's what you guys will see. If you're in this, you probably already know this. If you're an associate sales rep, I hope your rep is actually performing. What you'll see is a lot of them aren't. That's just the way of the world. There's not I remember when I was at Medtronic, you think everybody's performing top 80%. Not even close to that, right? Like there's a reason there's quotas and stuff, and it's why it's written certain ways. So I'm just saying that is, go find someone who is performing. Go find someone who has had that success and be able to learn from them. And they're just going to fast track it. And then the last 2 points I want to hit real quick is, number one is proactive. You heard Joe say that. Like your reps don't want to have to babysit you. If you've been there for 2-3 years, now let me just say this, maybe the opportunity just hasn't presented itself. That is possible, right? But most likely it's because you haven't done enough to earn their trust. And they're just like, well, Joe can just go run trays. We don't trust him to actually go with an account, because guess what? When they do, and you have a good rep, again, that's always an asterisk in there. You never know who you're going to have. But if you're having a good rep, why wouldn't a rep say, Joe, go do some lunches, see if you can pick up some business, right? Like, why wouldn't they give you the opportunity? But if they don't trust you, you haven't shown that you're a go-getter, that you are practicing, why would they? And so this is the one thing is, that's number one. And number two is like, if people come at me, Jacob, I've been in my spot for 2.5 years. It's not looking like it's going to open up. I'm going to be here forever. Well, guess what? You can also, like for myself, I would have never been a regional sales manager if I stayed at Medtronic for 5 years, right? It takes a certain amount of time. I left and went somewhere else, and we have a podcast about that you don't have to be in just one certain one. But the reason I'm just saying that is, if you are looking at going to a rep as fast as possible, and maybe it's not going to be the one you're currently in, can you just be doing the jobs when they ask you? Can you set meetings? Can you talk to doctors? Have you made a conversion that you can see, hey, this is how much money a yearly brings in or a quarterly brings in? Can you be able to show all that? And then lastly, the one point I just wanted to hit, I already touched on it earlier, but Joe didn't come in at 23 and be like, I'm only 23. I might as well just like stay here, and I'm not going to do anything and have success. He was like, no, he was a hungry, driven dude who just wanted to learn, who wanted to be with people, who was trying to get as many reps as possible, because he knows the people he's with has 10 years on him. He knows the people that they've had the experience. So why wouldn't he try to just catch up as fast as possible, which shows that he's a go-getter to be at 24 years old, a full line rep with one of the largest medical device company in the world. The reason I'm just saying that is somebody needs to hear that, because someone's like, oh, I'm 27. You're giving yourself a pass to be like, I might be a full line rep by 30. And again, And let me just state this. If that's your goal and you just want to chill and go drink beers with your buddies and do your thing, that's okay. But what this episode and what this podcast is all about is how are you coming in to crush it, have success so you can live the life that you want and get to where you want to be inside of this industry. And so I just wanted to touch on that because, Joe, you made so many great points, but I really wanted to really hammer some of those in because, like you said, there's a reason you went from 0 to 9 months to a full line rep, which, again, if you guys are listening, you've probably heard it a million times. It takes 2 years. And so I just want to say awesome tips on that.
No, I appreciate it, man. And yeah, dead on. Like age, like don't ever think of yourself as like you're young or like not capable, or don't let anybody else tell you that, because it's a mindset, and you can jump years on your life by listening to podcasts like what you put out, by finding those mentors, by having those key relationships, and just by doing what others won't. Because at the end of the day, like out of everything, like when you're an associate and you're doing more than what's expected, obviously the customer is going to be appreciated. Obviously your sales reps are going to be super appreciative, and like you're going to build your team. But the most important thing is like who you become in the process.
Yeah.
And you're building yourself and the skill set that you need to make the most positive impact you can on your company, on your customers, and your own success and your own goals. So dead on, man. I love talking age, talking whatever. Age is nothing. Everything's mindset.
Come on, man. I was actually just about to say, so this is my number one thing that I get the most passionate about is when people tell me, oh, I have 20 years experience in the industry. Again, this is one thing. We can always learn from those people. They have 20 years experience. There's a lot of it. But like, I know a lot of people who've barely done enough just not to get fired for 20 years, right? That's number one thing. Again, and that's again, it could be the same for people with 3 years experience. It's not that I don't think the experience matters. It's what you're doing inside that experience is number one that comes with it. But number two, the reason I bring up age is when you hear Joe talk, you don't think 28, right? Like I've been told that so many times. Oh, you're so mature for your age or whatever. We've had life happen. We've been put in positions where we can't be that 21-year-old or 22-year-old, right? At 23, most of your buddies are still getting drunk, making $40K a year, and you're in med device doing actual real things, right? And so the reason I'm just saying that is because I come from a small town in Iowa, and this is what I'll just say to this. I know a lot of 50-year-olds that are really immature. I know a lot of people who still just want to get drunk on the weekends, just want to barely get by, still act and talk about women like they're in high school. And the reason I'm just stating that to you guys, you're like, geez, Jacob, why are you going on with this? The reason I'm saying that is age is just a number, right? Because you can be a 28-year-old like Joe and be really mature and be climbing the ladder and be doing the work and be able to handle yourself in a certain manner compared to I've talked to 50-year-olds who I'm like, you're a child. Like, I don't know how you made it this far. And so the reason I'm just saying that to you guys is don't let somebody say, oh, you're only 22. Oh, you're 24. Because we just got a girl placed. She's 22 years old, one of the most mature people I've ever met in my life. She is absolute rock star, got hired in a couple of weeks, and she's going to just absolutely crush it. The reason I'm saying that is it's just a mindset. And so if you're this person who's it doesn't matter what age you are. I'm not even going to put a number on it. Just wherever you're at, you can make the change. You can do whatever you want. You can continue to grow and continue to hold yourself to a higher standard. And let me just tell you this, because I always have to, is if you hold yourself to a higher standard and you are the young buck or the young person in the crowd, there might be people intimidated by you. There might be people who go out of their way who don't like what you're doing. They might make some comments to you. They might be rude to you. They might make your life a little harder. And the reason I'm just telling you guys that is because people get scared when they see someone else coming up from the bottom, right? Like I can just tell you from my own personal experience, when I'm coming in and I had no sales experience, people used to call my manager and be like, hey, how's that kid who is the personal trainer doing? They just want to see you fail, right? And then when you go and finish top 10, how many times have I heard, oh, well, that's easy to do, because whatever it is, there's always an excuse and people are going to say it. So I just want to tell you, to whoever's listening, I don't care about your age. I don't care where you're at. Joe's a perfect example of it. You can be whatever age, you can come in and you can crush it in this industry and just go from a maturity factor. So just wanted to really touch on that to help you guys have success, because, it's pretty cool to watch somebody who's 25 years old having 20 years of experience. talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars in a business meeting at 25, and you're with a bunch of 40-year-olds, right? And they're kind of looking at you and like, wow, this guy's got it together. And I know that happened for you. So now I want to kind of transition in. Okay, you went from an associate to a full line rep in 9 months. What was that like? What was kind of the biggest curve for you in that respect? And then to carry off that is you've been at the largest companies in the world. Medtronic, now Intuitive, which is known for largest in robotics. What do you think has helped you have success inside those massive companies and just being a full line rep and just being able to continue to stand out too? Again, because the reason I just want to touch on this is because you can be at Medtronic, but that doesn't mean Intuitive's calling on your door to get you, right? You got to be doing something right to have them knocking down your door and get you. So can you touch on that?
Yeah, man. So as far as transition goes, like, I'd say probably the biggest difference is what shouldn't necessarily be the biggest difference if you're doing the associate job well in terms of proactivity, creating your own opportunities and different things like that. But you go from, kind of answering or being a little bit more reactive, truthfully, because you have to still run the trays. You still have to cover the cases.
Yep.
But now it's yours. It's your business. Like, you're the CEO of your territory. It's up to you to go out and make it happen. So, like, you may have a couple opportunities that were passed off from previous rep, or you may walk into a situation where, hey, we haven't seen our rep in 6-8 months. And, so I'd say the transition in terms of like a challenge or just a different way of thinking is just like, now it's you. Like, you don't, like, it's yours. So I always said, and I still say it, like, I offer zero value in front of my computer, like none. Like, I'm not going to win somebody, or I'm not going to, convert or make an impact by sending an email. Sure, It's part of the deal, and you may get a meeting that way. But my philosophy is you got to be boots on the ground in the hospital. So access into the accounts is everything. What I'm doing now is a little bit different than what I was doing previously, but where there's usually contracts set up in a lot of these divisions and companies, and they're contracted with company A or company B. It's either you, competitor, or another competitor. And if you don't have access because of that, well, then you have to get creative and find access. Like, are there educational offerings you can do for nurses? Not like, selling aside, your goal is just simply be able to step foot in that hospital and be seen as a partner, be seen as somebody that truly adds value.
Yep.
And that's the second piece. I say it a lot. Everybody says it a lot, like add value, add value, add value. But what that looks like is like it's a verb. Like, you gotta do more. You gotta find ways that align, like, put your agenda aside. Obviously, you're the rep and you have a quota to hit, and you're gonna have to at some point make an ask and close business. But put your agenda aside for a little bit and understand, like, what are their priorities? Like, what's the hospital priorities? What's administration's priorities? What's this specific surgeon's like top of mind for X case? What are they thinking about when they go home at night? And how can you align with that and ultimately bring them a solution? Like, originally, I thought like the job was, I think some people from the outside, you think the job is getting happy hours, getting lunches, wine and dine, schmooze, just be buddy with everybody and you'll be good. I come to find out that's not how it goes. Relationships definitely important, super, super important. And you have to build those and be authentic with it.
Yep.
I think you've said it in previous episodes, but you just got to be a human. But that's not the job. The job is to provide clinical value to ultimately elevate a patient outcome. Like that's why you should be in the arena.
Yep.
I think, sometimes there's different value propositions and different things, but at the end of the day, like, the mission stays the same. Like,
Yep.
Your goal is to solve some type of challenge or some type of issue they may not know they even have, to elevate somebody's mom, brother, sister, whoever on the table that aligns with what the surgeon wants to accomplish as well.
That's
and yeah, I mean, the mindset shift is there, because like you think you're just going in and being buddy with everybody, and that's honestly something I had struggled with early on. Is like,
yep.
I don't know if you have the same thing, but like, I want so many people just to like me.
Yep.
And I have to I've had to transition the way I operate, and the way I think is like, of course I want them to like me, but more importantly, I want them to respect me, and I want them to see me as a value added partner.
Yep.
If they don't like how I do certain things, but they see that I bring value and I show up and I do the things that I say I'm going to do, well, then, you know what, I can go home at night and say, like, you know what, I feel good about what I'm doing. I'm making my own personal mission come true.
1,000%, man. And that's the biggest thing. I talk about this all the time. I just made a podcast a little while ago about this. Is like, everybody tells me, oh, relationship selling is dead. And this is what I always talk to people about. If it's just the relationship, yeah, you're going to lose, right? Because doctors have friends, all that stuff. But if you're an expert in what you do, you've actually been able to come in and provide value, plus be a good person, be able to make those relationships. That's where it all comes together. And that's where I always just have these conversations with people, is they'll always be like, oh, no, you just can't go be friendly, which you have to be to a point, right? Like, there has to be a point. But what good does it do if they're like, Joe's nice, but he doesn't know what the heck he's talking about? Joe's nice. Right. He brings us coffee, but every time we're in the room, he has to call somebody, right? Compared to you are actually doing it. And that's one thing I really want to touch on. Is everybody always asks me, what's the secret, Jacob? How have you had success? What's this? We all have quotas we got to hit. We all need to make a certain amount of money. But I can tell you, if you focus on the money, if you focus on that, you will not hit it. You will, because this is why. Because if you realize you have to do so many cases, and again, this is what I'll tell you. When I have my quotas, I know how many cases that I need to do a month, how many I need to do a week, how many I need to do a day. That breaks it down. That's how you have success, and you lead it up to that. But if I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't get 2 today, I need to get another one. I need to go get my next week set up because I'm down this week. If you do that, you know what people can absolutely feel? That you're just trying to get things on the books, that you're trying to make sales, instead of, if you just come and provide value and you be value focused, I promise you that you will hit your quota, that you will exceed your quota, that you will continue to go. Because if you can just, Gary Vee said it best. He has a book out there if you guys haven't. And again, this is why I love entrepreneurship, because like you said, being a rep is an entrepreneurship. You are running your own territory, your own business. You are your own CEO. You are Joe at Intuitive, but you're Joe. Like, this is your territory in it, and you just represent them. But the reason I say that is he has a great book, and it's jab, 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 right hook. And what it means is give, and delay the ask as long as possible. Because what will happen eventually is people will actually feel guilty, and they'll be like, man, Joe's just giving us so much. Like, I feel like we need to do something. Right? That can come. And now I'm not saying, again, with the robots and all your stuff, you can't just give a bunch of stuff away for free. But what I can say is, can you continue to provide value? Can you have articles that are interesting to the surgeons? Can you do in-services? Can you do different things? Like he said, getting with the nurses and just having conversations that have just focused on providing value. And guess what? They're going to be like, man, Joe is awesome. But also, Joe knows what he's talking about. And then this is what people miss so many times. And I just have to mention this, is when you're doing this world, you know how you win deals? You know how you get doctors to use you? When selling goes on, when you're not the one selling, when you're not the one in the room, when you have the scrub techs, you have the nurses, you have the other faculty and staff talking to the surgeons and the people for you. That's when deals get done. And I can just tell you, and it can be different on everyone's business, because to Joe's point, like, I'm in a startup now. Well, we have, one of our biggest things is we are so much more affordable than other companies. So we need to talk about the price at some point. But because we know it's a value, if I can save you half the money or more, double the money, we know that's a value add, but it's how you bring it up. It's how you say it. And even just so you guys know, I literally just got off a phone with a surgeon. Why? I literally said, hey, can we just do a lab for your residents? Not, hey, can I set up a demo with you? Not any of this. Can we just help your residents? Do you think this would be helpful? Because of that, I now have 2 demos set up. not only with the residents, but now the resident directors and the actual faculty wants to see it, right? The reason I'm just telling you guys that, was there a piece of it with sales? Yes. But guess what? I focused on the value add first. Then you move into the other stuff, because going back to it, if you're just adding value and you can do it in a really good way, they already like you and they're like, oh my gosh. So I just wanted to touch on that because Joe hit it on the head, but you guys just need to understand is we all know you need to make money. We all know you need to hit quota and all that good stuff. But I can tell you, if you're like, I need to make this money, I need to hit this quota, I need to do this, it's an energy. People can feel that energy. They can feel the desperateness. They can feel this is the worst thing you can hear. And I've heard it in the rooms when I used to be in the OR all the time. Yeah, that rep just comes to sell. When they say that, that's when you know, like that person has a pin mark on them from everyone in the hospital, because they know, compared to, I talked about it on our last podcast, is the best thing that ever happened to me is one time I forgot a pin, walked back in, and the nurses were singing my praises. They were talking about how great I was just to be around, not even in the case, but just how great I was to be around. The reason I'm just saying that, again, it's never a brag. It's to show you guys, can you just provide value? Can you be an expert at what you do? When you're in the OR room, can you help them and make their life easier? And the most important, like Joe said, is if you do your job well and everything goes well, you get the best possible outcome for that patient that's on the table, which is always the number one focus. And that's what I always have to bring it back to, is all the other stuff plays off of it. But if you can focus, that's one thing I got so passionate about. I was in GYN. Every single time I was thinking it's my mom, my sister, my grandma on that table. That's what it's about. If you can focus on that, I promise you the other stuff will come, compared to the people who are like, I just need this case because I need the money. So I just wanted to touch on that.
Yeah, man. No, a lot of good nuggets there. Like, one of my first mentors told me, the job's like an ATM. You gotta make the deposits before you can withdraw something.
Yep.
And I think 100% that's true. Also, though, if you find a solution quickly and you find like surgeons' priorities quickly and you're able to solve for those, like, you can't be afraid to get in there and solve for what you can provide. You know what I mean? Yep. Like, it's a balance. Like, I probably have had times where I've waited too long, or like I've given myself too much. I've, wasted some time, and the deal probably could have gotten closed much sooner than when it actually did. But at the end of the day, you kind of have to adapt to your style, your process. And I think what you said beautifully is, like, if you focus on the numbers and the numbers only, like, you'll never hit it, because you'll just give off that energy. You'll be inauthentic. You'll be that pushy rep, and nobody wants to be around that. And ultimately, you're not going to have that team, that culture that sells for you. So, focus on the process. What can you control? Can I talk to 10 surgeons today? Can I make 10 contacts? And can I do that consistently every single day for the next month? And then because of that, I have X amount of opportunities that I can start to, work, transition, move the ball down the field or whatnot. So last thing I guess I'll share on this piece, and this might be a good point for, ASRs to note, is like, I remember, like, it was one of my first cases, like, I was alone or whatnot, competitive rep, like, they were using the competition product. Competitive rep was in there for the start of the case, and then, said his lows, made a couple jokes, and then bounced out. And one of the circulating nurses was like, man, that guy, like, blah, blah, blah. And surgeon, like, chimed in, was like, I can't believe that guy collects a paycheck every week and comes in here and just, shoots the breeze and doesn't offer anything new. And it just kind of goes back to show, like, your job is to provide value and ultimately, help. Like, that's the job. So.
Yeah, no, that's such a good point. And I appreciate that experience, because that's what you guys just need to hear. And the one thing I would need to touch on, one other thing, is you said it. What are you doing today that's going to help you tomorrow, next week, next month, next year? Again, I didn't come in as an associate. I came in right as a full line rep. But what I focused on is, what can I do today that's going to help impact my territory in a positive manner in 6 months? And I just heard of something by Alex Hormozi, and he says, you can tell how successful and how wealthy someone is by the time frames they talk. And his comment was, he's like, if they talk in days and weeks, I can tell they're broke. And then just going off that. So the reason I'm just telling you guys that, same thing for your success. What are you trying to do? Yeah, you can have goals for this day, this week, this month, but what are you doing to help yourself? Because that's the biggest thing is sales is one of those things. It's going to show you what you've done the last 2-3 months. Things going well, it shows you what you did the last 2-3 months well. If you're drying up, you got to have a real hard check. What have you been doing the last 2-3 months? So that's the one thing I would just tell you guys is most people just can't be consistent. That's what it is. And just anything in life. That's what I'll just say. Fitness, food, relationships, whatever it is, it's consistency. I talk to people who can make $5,000, $10,000 a month, and then they go right back down to it. And they're like, I just can't break it. And I'm like, I know why. Because you go hard for a week or two, hit your number, and then you give up you go take a vacation. You do it. Can you just be consistent? So that's what I would just tell you guys is you want to have success, do the boring things, do the things that are going to help move your territory every single day consistently, and you'll like your results 3, 6, 12 months from now. So Joe, really appreciate you taking time, man. A great conversation. Always good to chop it up with you. Really appreciate you just taking time out of your day. And thank you so much for joining us on the podcast.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. Keep the dream alive and keep making impact.
Yes, sir. And if you guys are listening, press that like and subscribe button. A 5-star review helps us grow this channel. And if you guys are looking just to learn more, first year in medical device sales, we're on LinkedIn, all the socials, as well as you can reach out to me on Jacob McLaughlin. But I hope you all have a great week. Get after it. Go keep making impact. Keep doing awesome in medical device sales. And we'll see you on the next one. Peace.